full-grown dolphin fetus Charlie Kirk suggests conservatives are being provoked into violence by Democrats. Look at this absurd video.
It is driving people nuts. And I'm afraid, Mr. Speaker, if we as the figures in the media, the people that have audiences aren't clear about the proper course of action, that this is going to get wildly out of control in a way that people will act. I don't want them to act violently. I don't. I'm trying to preach peace as much as possible. But Mr. Speaker, you know history. It's almost like they're being provoked, and I don't like that. And
yeah, well, look, that was the whole purpose of Biden's speech in Philadelphia, with the Marines standing there and the lighting that resembled The Empire Strikes Back, was to provoke conservatives into doing the kind of things that would justify applying martial law.
Boy, that's deep.
Boy, that's deep right there. Did you notice the twitch on Charlie Kirk's face when he had to say, I've been promoting peace as much as I can, and had like a little conniption fit in his face right there? What a ridiculous human, and how they continue to focus on the lighting during Biden's speech when their guy is literally still trying to overthrow the US government. But there was very scary red lights during Biden's speech. These group of idiots. That, of course, was Charlie Kirk talking to self-aggrandizing Pillsbury doughboy and former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Get ready for a scary survey finding, however, because Kirk might not be wrong about the proclivity to violence. He's just wrong about who's encouraging it. 4 in 10 Republicans say political violence may be necessary. A survey found that nearly 3 in 10 Americans, including nearly 4 in 10 Republicans, agreed that if elected leaders will not protect America, the people must do it themselves, even if it requires violent actions. A Meredith College poll found that 61% of Republicans believe use of force may be needed to save the country from a perceived disappearing way of life. It's almost as though when you actively and maliciously lie to millions of people and make them falsely believe their country and their elections are being stolen, and then push them toward violence, that they might start committing violence. It's so crazy. It's hard logic to follow, but if you look closely, I guess it makes some amount of sense. Cenk, does it make sense to you?
Yeah, no, here's what makes sense to me. They're trying to find a way to excuse the violence. So they're saying, well, it's not your fault, right-wingers, that you did the violence against the Democrats. You were provoked. There was nothing you could do. Once they provoke you with their lights, I mean, they're red. I mean, it's not like we all wear red hats. No, but when they use the color red in lights, what were you supposed to do? Not murder them? You've been provoked. You've been provoked. So it's not your fault that you're doing the violence. And by the way, there's a guy who threatened to kill Obama recently that was arrested. There's, of course, the Trump supporters who sent the pipe bombs. There's a guy who came with a truck full of bombs, he said. There was a guy who was just killed by the FBI because he was threatening to murder President Biden. It's violence after violence after violence. You got 40% of the Republicans saying that it's time for violent actions. You got 61% saying let's use force, but it's not their fault. It's our fault for provoking them with our ideas, because God forbid we should live in a democracy and have freedom of speech and freedom of ideas. Wait, I thought that's what the Republicans were arguing for. Oh no, only your ideas. But if we have ideas or we win in an election, then obviously it's time for violence, and it's not your fault because you were provoked. I mean, we got more votes than you. What a provocation for murder, right? These guys are disgusting. It's not an accident that half of Republicans think it's time for some sort of violence. It's because almost every right-wing host in media continues to tell them, and a lot of politicians, oh, it's just so you got your Second Amendment rights. Okay, that's for the tyranny of the government. Don't tread on me. Remember, if the government does anything you don't like, you grab your gun and you do something about it. Oh, did they? Oh, they shot someone? Oh, I guess they were provoked.
Yeah, I think the most important part that we just saw out of the graphics was that 61% feeling like a way of life is being taken away from them. And it's not just that right-wing outlets are always pushing things like the Great Replacement theory in some type of way, but this really is just a continuation of the lost cause. This country, huge portions of this country have never gotten over the fact that the Confederacy lost the Civil War. That was no small thing. This country depended on the expansion of slavery and through stolen in land that was taken away. And they would speculate on it like they do in the stock market, and that's how this country expanded. Slavery was that important to the very existence and fabric of this nation. And it wasn't just about the automation, but also the way of life. So this is just a continuation to now. A way of life is being taken from them. Because ultimately, if it wasn't about that, there's really no reason to be so gung-ho and up in arms about someone like Donald Trump, because essentially, there's no difference between Trump and anybody else in the Republican Party when it comes to their policy positions. But Donald Trump to them represents this pillar and this barrier from the country becoming more brown and more gay. So they say it all the time. You know, there's too many people coming across the southern border. Well, what color are those people? What's the financial situation of those people? And then they're always up in arms about gay and trans people being themselves openly and freely. That's why they're not talking about wages or education. You might, you see in TYT, you might go out there and ask them about it. Then they'll bring it up. But more or less, they feel like their country is being taken from them, and they say it out loud every day.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.